Rob Ainscough here. I'm going to go over some Xplane 11.35 system RAM and video RAM usage using a series of different add-ons. We're going to start off with my graphic settings here. They're fairly high because I'm trying to use as much VRAM as I possibly can. They're not maxed out, but they're pretty close to it. We're running Coronado's B58 here. The scenery installed is Orbix, Great Britain, North, South, and Central. And the weather is courtesy of Hi-Fi Active Sky XP. So we're taking off here, and as you can see, the RAM usage is at 21 gigs already, and the VRAM usage is at 12.8 gigs. The hardware I'm running this on, this is a 990K CPU running at 5.2 gigahertz, and the GPU is a single Titan RTX. It's running at a stock clock, air-cooled. So we've taken off here. I'm just gonna fly around the London City area. That's a fairly dense area, which should test out the limits of memory usage. As we proceed in our arc here, you can see the memory is starting to increase a little. It should increase more as soon as we get London into the screen here, and sure enough, there's London, and the memory is up to 13.2 gigs. Now these graphic settings aren't what I would normally use. I always aim for about 30 FPS because it ties into my VSync, and my monitor is set to 30 Hertz, so that locks in quite nicely and provides probably the most smoothest frame rate I can get. So I adjust my graphics accordingly. But for this test, I'm really just trying to see how much RAM I can use and how much video RAM I can use. Not really an FPS test at all. Scrolling around here, still around 13.3 gigs, which, as you know, the Titan RTX has 24 gigs of VRAM. Alright, so I've bumped up the graphic settings a bit. Let's see if our memory usage has gone up. Our VRAM usage has actually gone down a little bit, but that's most likely because the textures were swapped out when I went ahead and changed the graphic settings there. Once I rotate around a few times, those textures will probably load back into VRAM, and the VRAM should go back up again. Sure enough, it is going back up. I noticed some shimmering in the distance up here. Alright, so let's go ahead and max out the AA quality here. This is 8X SSAA plus FXAA, which certainly should put my GPU into overload. As you can see, we've taken a little bit more memory. We're up to about 14.8 gigs VRAM usage right now. Frame rate has dropped as expected. 8X SSA at 4K resolution is going to be a tall order to ask for any GPU. Now again, these aren't settings I typically use. So now I'm going to go back to a series of settings that I normally fly with. which is low reflections. I don't max out the world objects, and I run at 4x SSAA. Alright, so we're back in the sim, and as you can see, my VRAM usage has dropped back down again, and my frame rate has improved up to my almost magical mark of 30. My target is. This would be a more normal flight situation for me in terms of graphic settings. Like I said, the VRAM usage has dropped down 12 gigs, but still quite a bit. Alright, so I've switched over to Hot Start's TBM 900, which is a fairly complex aircraft. I'm once again running max graphic settings, and as you can see, the memory usage is 18.5. The VRAM memory usage is 18.5 gigs. The system RAM usage is 25.2 gigs, which is quite a lot. Frame rates are obviously low. That's probably to be expected when all the graphic settings are maxed out at 4K resolution. So let's go ahead and see if I can fly this aircraft. I'll be perfectly honest with you, I've probably flown it maybe twice. Not that it's a bad aircraft, it isn't. It's a great aircraft. I just haven't had the time to explore it nor learn how to use it. Okay, so we're continuing with our flight here. We're now up to 19.1 gigabytes of VRAM usage, and our GPU is working quite heavily at 87%. If you're curious, the monitoring information above is from MSI's Afterburner. It's actually the Riva Tuner server, which is providing the overlay that you see in the upper left corner. And those are the values that I'm monitoring. CPU is all CPUs, and GPU, I've only got one in right now, so you just see the single GPU. And as you can see here, I've capped out at 19.2 gigabytes of VRAM usage. System RAM's at 24.4. So the TBM 900 has used a bit more video RAM, which is probably to be expected. It has those wonderfully nice MFDs and PFDs. so I would expect that. If we switch out to external view here, we're still around 19.2 gigabytes of VRAM. Now again, this isn't a normal graphic setting for when I use Xplane 11. I dial it back a bit. I don't max everything out like I have here. Alright, so now I'm going to switch back to my normal settings for XSSA, HDR, and world object down to high and reflections down to low. And as you can see, my frame rate starts to climb back up to my target of 30. That's where I'm comfortable flying with. As you can see, memory usage, RAM usage has actually gone up a little bit. It's 25.4 gigs. But VRAM usage has dropped down from 19.2 gigs to 15.2 gigs. So that's dropped quite a bit. Alright, here I'm just kind of messing around. I successfully blew up my engine here. Let's see if we can dead stick it back to London City. Yeah, I was just having a little bit of fun here, but so be it. Life's too short to be too serious. Anyway, hopefully this video demonstrated just how much VRAM a flight simulator can take. I was surprised to see Xplane 11 actually use about 3 gigs more VRAM than Prepared's 3D version 4. Maybe I just haven't pushed Prepared 3D enough to see if I can get it to use more VRAM. But Prepared 3D used about 16.2 gigs of VRAM. Xplane, I managed to get it to use 19.2 gigs of VRAM. So, but don't distress. If you don't have a video card with 24 gigs of VRAM, you can still get the best out of Xplane and/or Prepared 3D. You just have to manage your graphic settings and be aware of what's happening. If you do exceed your VRAM usage, your frame rate will tend to stutter. It will drop. It'll be going to memory, regular system memory, which is a lot slower for storage of graphics, textures, and things like that. So whenever it comes to access those textures, it sometimes will have to go out to system memory rather than video memory. And going out to system memory is a lot slower, so therefore your frame rate slows down. So there is definitely a benefit to having a video card with lots of video RAM when using flight simulators. It's a benefit for Prepared 3D, and it's also a benefit for Xplane 11. I suspected this was the case some time ago, based on some of the performance results I was getting from my 2080 Ti's, which were only 11 gigs of VRAM. They were stuttering and pulsating in areas that I normally wouldn't expect them to, but it turned out it's really just it's running out of VRAM. So I don't know if it's good news or bad news, but it is what it is. Flight simulators, when you turn the settings up, they tend to love to use video RAM as much as possible. So that's that, and let me put this dead TBM to rest. Thank you.